over there that they wasn't from over there. Right? But now that they didn't amalgamate it with the people on the land over there, they just got just as much right to stay there as they do to come back here.
Wow.
Right? So we all supposed to got mad at the pale man at the end and went on a bloody rampage killing them motherfuckers, and they ain't the ones behind it.
So the pale face has actually been a pawn, it looks like.
100% a pawn. They are what you call the blood shield of the Blackamoors. Well, you translate blood shield as Rothschild. Nobody never do no real research on the Rothschilds. They find that not a single Rothschild had a personal bank account with any money in it. Everything they did was through the foundation. Right? Why did they do everything through the foundation? Because the foundation is predicated upon stolen items from here. In the ancient code of thieves is updated. It's called the Uniform Commercial Code. They can live off of it until the people who owns it reclaims it. Then they have to return it back to them with just compensation. That's why we're not eligible for reparations, because they just sitting on our shit, our wealth. The Americas was the wealthiest land in the world because the way that the people treated each other. Money wasn't the driving force. The love for your family was the driving force of everything we did. And that's the part that they couldn't understand when they got over here, because they believe in family feuds.
Yeah, I mean, I read a book, and I don't know whether it was so-called somebody we know that's allegedly supposed to be famous quoted that when they got here, the people of the land, they were peaceable people. They were this, everything they wrote, what they encountered, if they were telling the truth, spoke to definitely not anybody who was savage or coming out of caves or anything. It was established societies and laws and whatever that governed them. But
yeah, they burned down our cities and flooded them out, blew them up with dynamite. We had massive structures over here. Chicago always been a metropolis for thousands of years, the same as New Orleans, the same as Detroit, the same as New York. Right? Those always been metropolises. This is what the World Fairs was filming.
Was that a cover up though? They were actually these were.
They had to keep a record. Look, they had to keep a record of it before they tore it down.
Right, but they made pretend they had established these buildings as temporary World's Fairs, whatever. But you couldn't even hardly take them down because they had been up so long. Am I correct?
Right. That's when they came in with the dynamite and the demolition. So that's why you got the Great Fire of Los Angeles, the Great Fire of Chicago, the Great Fire of Miami. Florida used to be full of trees like the California redwood forest, and the people lived in the treetops and on the bottom of the trees. Those became known as, they started calling them Seminoles when they realized that they were a mixture of every tribe across the land. The Seminole means that they mix. It's a mixed tribe. But the tribes came as far away as the Polynesian Islands to fight in the Seminole Wars. That's where the war was taking place. Wow. So they backdoored us on the Louisiana Purchase. Whole tribes that moved their families closer to Florida so that their soldiers, their sons, can go fight in the wars. We were settling Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Louisiana. We drop our families off there with big mamas, and then we go fight in the wars. Well, we left castles empty. We left villages empty, like the Pueblo in Colorado. We did, the whole clan just got up. We finna go kick some ass. And now when they do the Louisiana Purchase, they declared that we abandoned the land, and as the protectorate, they had the right to resettle it. And that's the reason why that's how they violate the treaties, with the trick of the language, what they call legalese. Mm-hmm. Because if you abandon it, they got the right to claim it till you come back home.
Well, isn't that the same thing now when it comes down to foreclosures and so forth? You get the notification, and some folks stay in their ground and stay in their property, but as soon as you move out, they say abandonment. So the initial reason why they're going to take the property goes out the window. You abandoned it. It's like, finders, keepers, losers, weepers, so to speak.
So the people that settle the land become squatters.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they come up with something called squatters' rights. It's called, in ancient law, it's called the right of fair use. If you ain't using it in its workable condition, somebody who's willing to use it and maintain the condition can use it.
Well, why doesn't that rule apply now with all these vacant buildings and so forth that are around because people have abandoned them, for so-called economic reasons? Why is it that when if someone was to take over and say, look, I'm going to do something else with this, it now's a crime?
Because they got to first tie you to the paper chain. In other words, an adhesion contract. The property not changing hands under the corporate jurisdiction of the United States unless somebody's putting something on paper. They got to know who got your land and who hands has been through before you take it back, so they can know what they owe you.
And how does one do that?
They gonna tell you. This whole system is over. The United States corporation has been dethroned, so to speak. We under the Indigenous Rights Act now. We in the middle of continuity of government transfer. That's why the borders has been closed for almost 2 years.
From what I hear, the borders are being flooded by, so-called.
Oh, I'm talking about the ports. All those ships that's still sitting on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They blamed on COVID. You can't have a government transfer and have your ports open. That's ancient knowledge. Anytime you transfer in government, you have to close the port so you don't allow yourself to the opportunity to be invaded by a foreign force while the government is in transition.
But the foreign force is right here on the land,
but
as well as outside the land too.
Right, but they in the process of being exiled from the land.
Well, they're not going down without a fight, because it seems like before they go out, they're trying to throw every, bit of mandate laws or whatever those things that that mandate.
A mandate is just a suggestion. That's not a law.
Okay.
It's just a suggestion.
Okay. But we don't know that, and so if you just like, I guess, the illegality of income tax, it's a voluntary thing, but if you acquiesce and fill out their forms, then they have the right to apply.
Because you agreed to the contract. Then the contract becomes enforceable. The Internal Revenue Service is an independent tax collection agency. They debt collectors. That's all they are. You audit yourself when you do the paperwork for them. So they allowing you to audit yourself. And tell them if you owe them anything.
I was told that they were getting ready to institute some new procedure, like in 2024. I think it's like 2024. Or is it 2023? That they're going to already send you the tax paperwork filled out based on the information they've gotten in, and they're going to send you your tax, your whatever your 1040 or whatever you do, 1040. And then they're going to say, this is what you owe, or this is what you get back, because they're going to do it based on what they've gotten in. So which means they're probably going to disallow all of the deductions and all these things, so that they're just going to send it to you. I'm hoping that that's a fraudulent thing that was told to me.
Everything they're doing is fraudulent. They are illegally occupying the territory under false pretenses. That make every contract that they ever sign void, because it's a constructed fraud. That's why they don't never honor none of their treaties. If you ask the Grand Sheik, if you say, Taj, why they don't honor none of their treaties, he'd probably be like, I don't know. They just evil like that. No, they don't honor the treaties because they never made them with the people from the land in the first place.
That's the part, because who knew, that they were making deals with folks that look like us that were not us.
No, the people that look like us brought $5 Indians over here.
And they made it with them. And they're the ones they made the contracts with. So that's why that group was recently able to get that land in, was it Colorado? Where was that?
All that smoke and mirrors.
Oh, so it really isn't what.
Look, those $5 Indians, when they got over here, they came as the indentured servants. They were originally prisoners of war from the Mongol Empire, war with the Romans, and the Huns, wars with the Romans, where they was taking slaves as spoils of war. They also brought some that come from what we call Hindustan, and they brought them over here. And this is the group we see doing all our rituals. The question is, how did they learn our rituals?
What rituals are those?
All of the dances, the things to do with the feathers, the peyote ceremonies.
Oh, okay.
Our rituals.
And they have the powwows. Those folks having the
yeah.
Okay.
But all that's our stuff. So when they was on the Trail of Tears, they was kicking the ones that looked like me and you off in the southern states. And the ones that they brought over here that passed off as Dawes Road's $5 Indians, they marched them onto reservations. And them the ones they wrote the treaties with, so they can make us believe that we came from somewhere else. And none of our ancestors signed treaties with them. We didn't believe in that. We didn't believe in their style of contract law. We believed in a man say what he gonna do, and that's what he do, and he shake hands on it, and that's bounding before man and God. They needed the paperwork in order to keep us constantly recontracting with them with paperwork. That's why anything that you file with the system, whether you put them on notice, if you send them a legal form to put them on notice, you just made an adhesion contract recognizing their superior jurisdiction.
Can you repeat that, please? I heard what you said, but can you say that again, please?
Yeah. Anytime you file paperwork with them, any kind of legal forms, even if it's putting them on notice, you are agreeing to their superior jurisdiction over you in status. Nobody that is organic to the land, right, need to file any paperwork with anybody on the land because they from here. You organic to the land. You before a Native American. You before an Indian. You before all that shit. You before the Moors. But they don't want you to know it. So they scrambled this egg up in legalese. It's all tied up in the legalese, in the application of the law. And this is what Ty's been telling them for the longest. If you don't understand these legal terms, you wasting your time. How many times you heard him say that?
Yeah. You're right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that folks are trying to do things to at least make the declaration. But what you're saying is you don't have a problem with the proclamation of one.
You're supposed to do it under our culture. It's done orally, and it's done in the public domain in an archivable format. Years ago, before the invaders came, when we had a public declaration to make, we used to have somebody called the city or the town clerk read it in the town square.
Yeah, they would have, but they would read.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's who you went to. That's what their job was, is to put in the public domain your declaration. That's why they used to read off childbirths. Such and such and such and such. Chief Littlehorn was born to so-and-so and such on this day and at this time. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's letting everybody know of the new births that's taking place in the community. And it's keeping the community tight-knit. This is all under the matriarchy.
Speak about that, because we talked about that too, that, one of the big issues, and even Prophet Noble Drew Ali spoke about it. When you look at the question, the 101s, there you have him with, the woman who's in, I don't know whether she's asleep or unconscious or what, but humanity's written on her womb. And it's going to take the matriarchy to be restored to its rightful place in order to do what needs to be done. But we see all these things rising up. They're very patriarchal, even from our so-called people.
Yeah.
Speak on that, please.
So the whole purpose of the patriarchy was to restrict our family ties and to minimize the bloodline. They was trying to kill us off. You got to remember that. If you ever let it out, when you're doing the research, if you ever let it out your mind today, all this mean that all of these things go with them killing us off on the land. Right? So they couldn't understand why the harder they press us, the faster we proliferate. Right? And if they try to take their foot off our neck, the faster we rise up in all fields of science, government, economics, entertainment, everything else. If they take their foot off our neck, we start rising in those aspects. So now they didn't know what to do. They can't keep us down because we propagate. When you oppress us, we start having babies like rabbits. But when you take the oppression off us and start taking your foot off our neck, then we start having the smaller families, 1 and 2 kids, because we're so busy excelling in whatever part of your society you say we can't conquer. Mm-hmm. Just to show you we can conquer it.
And then the latest agenda is that, that trans, that.
Right, that's to underline the males. The masculine is not fit to rule if he's been anally penetrated.
So a lot of their rituals in the music industry and the entertainment industry includes that happening.
Yeah, they sodomize them so that they're not fit to rule. That way, if they ever get the following to rule, they're going to end up having a heart attack or a stroke from the spirit side because they root chakra has been shattered. It's called a shattered oracle ritual that they're doing. It's a sex ritual, and it's out of the Babylonian sex magic.
Wow. Everything
they doing in this government is designed to make me and you think we came over on a ship. That's it. Ain't no further addition or subtraction, then that's the bottom line. As long as we think we came on ships and we not from over here, we will never reclaim what's rightfully ours.
But let me back up a little bit. Yes, we didn't come over on ships, but people that look like us are everywhere
globally
on the planet. I know when I used to read the Bible, I used to think in terms of where, because I didn't know anything about being a Moor, but where did people like me or United States at the time, where did we figure into this Bible story and into this
we don't
yeah, well, that's what I mean, these prophecies and so forth. And so now that I know what I know, I'm thinking that while some things were going on or some things were being created as if they had going on, there were people who lived in other parts, hence where we are now, who were here, had been here, and that the narrative was created, that the biblical narrative and even the so-called maybe Jewish and Islamic, some of those were created. I call them sort of 3 levels of catch-all. If we can't get you in this one, you get you in that one. If we don't get you in this one, because we created them all from the same pot or the same.
Well, Christianity was created before Judaism.
Okay, but it was written. They wrote it as if in the book, as if it
because they wrote Judaism to give Christianity a backstory.
Okay, well, we would say when I was in Bible college, they would say the Old Testament is the New Testament concealed, and the New Testament is the Old Testament revealed, or something like that. That's what they would say. And then there was this period in between they called 400 silent years when they said God didn't speak. But what I've surmised since then is that those were years when the I don't know what family it was, the Piso family and so forth, and their generations were actually crafting the narrative and making these, trying to make these books be, to coincide and balance.
You ever heard of a Maccabees Bible?
I've heard of Maccabees, yes.
Okay, that's the Catholic Bible. It's 14 books between Malachi and Matthew.
The Apocrypha.
Right. That's what they call them. Now, Apocrypha means hidden.
Right.
When Martin Luther rebelled, in order for them to paint the narrative they want to, that there was 400 years between Malachi and Matthew, they had to take out those other books.
Okay.
Right. When you look, it's 14 of them. But when they was putting the original manuscript together, they was doing that in Nicaea.
Okay, in the 325 AD.
Right. Under Constantine.
Right.
Right. While they was putting that together, they had grabbed what we call priests from varying different backgrounds to consolidate the text and form what they call the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The Bible now has 66 books, but under the Catholics, it has 80. Right. So that's showing you right there that even the Christians don't agree with Christianity. But they want us to fall for it hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely.
They mistranslate words and terms on purpose to confuse the reader into following the narrative that they paint. This is the dogma aspect of the morals and dogma. Right? So they first created Christianity for Rome to conquer the world. But when there were certain groups of people that didn't accept Christianity, they infiltrated their culture and attached it to the church. Example, the Quran of the Muslims, the Al-Quran, is got chapters to Mary, chapters to Isa, right?
Right.
It was written by Muhammad, supposed to have been an Arab prophet. And his counselors were all Catholic priests. Khadijah, his first wife, was a high-ranking Catholic nun. So his influence for Islam, it even tell him in the Quran and say, if you have any doubt, O Muhammad, in what we speak, consult the scholars from the scriptures of old. Talking about the Bible. In other words, go ask your uncle Waraka, who wear this motherfucking father tie, if we telling you the story the way we want it told. But what they don't tell us is the whole narrative came out of a story that took place in Greece, right? Where the three elders went to the servant, the faithful servant, in the garden or in the swinging gardens to give part upon him the knowledge. It's the same story. It's the same story as the three wise men. It's the three kings conjured.
Right.
Because before you raise the patriarchy, you got to have the three kings as the openers of the way.
Speaking of the three kings, from my conversations with you, I may be wrong in my what I've surmised, but the three kings are a group, are I want to say from spiritual, if you will. They come in different dispensations.
Yeah.
And at this time, the kings have been held, so to speak. The current incarnation of kings are ones who have been given a really, I guess, negative, press and
right.
And
so that's all. Remember COINTELPRO.
Mm-hmm.
Stop the rise of any potential messiah who could incite the masses. Right. And they have a list in CIA documents and FBI documents of who these leaders was that they was concerned could incite the masses. Chicago, they took out at least 400 of our leaders from the land that had the potential to lead us out of this condition. Most of them they murdered, but the ones
would these be like the so-called gang wars we thought?
Yeah. So they telling us it's gang wars, but none of the gang leaders is at war. Mm-hmm. But they put their kids in there with our kids. Mm-hmm. And they kids don't act like our kids.
Well, our children. Look, we're not gonna call them kids because those are baby goats. But I know what you mean. They put them together, but they give them the narrative that we are at war, right? Is that why they're no? I've been told by some, that live in Chicago that there were times and some OGs when there would be open rail cars on the tracks with guns and ammunition, or in alleys, guns and ammunition were like left there for them to, and then they get knowledge that it's there, like, yeah, so and so. And a lot of what they got because it was put there.
Absolutely. The same in LA.
Right.
Right. They have right now, they be hitting the freights. That's what they call it, hitting the freights. Mm-hmm. They hit the freights. They're supposed to get stuff like TVs, radios, clothes. Now you hitting the freights and you're getting AK-47s, MAC-10s, 45s, 380s. You're getting Glock, Beretta. You're getting a smorgasbord of firearms. Mm-hmm. We don't make them. So how is they getting into the hood? Somebody bringing them in there, and it ain't us, because we ain't making them. Mm-hmm. They telling us gun control. They telling us that the right to bear arms is for the purposes of going hunting, for recreational purposes. But that's not what the founding fathers of the so-called country said. They said that the right to bear arms was so that anytime this government goes astray from the principles of Constitution, that the citizen have a right to take up arms and replace the government.
And
they
so
don't want you to know that, though.
Nothing just to bear arms for just any old dispute. You stepped on my lawn and I didn't get your.
It's specifically targeting government.
They don't say that.
It's in the Constitution. Matter of fact, in the Declaration of Independence, it tell you that at any time that the people become disenfranchised with the government, it is the duty of the people to take up arms and replace the government in a well-formed coup. It's right in the documents. But we don't have to use a military coup. All we have to do is claim our birthright, and that put us in control of all government, military, political, and economic events taking place on the land. Right? So we need to be able to call the three chiefs. What is their purpose? Right? So they had to form clans. We have to form clans. We have to reform the family across common bonds. They called it we was ganging. We was gang banging. Gang mean clan. So we was formulating clans. They was infiltrating the clans. And they was starting the wars between two clans who was formerly at peace. Right? So, like, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. This is well known in California after the Rodney King riots in 91. And the Bloods and Crips had something that they called the truth, where they tied their rags together. And the OGs said, we're going to stop killing each other and we're going to focus on this government. Within a week, they started having drive-bys while you got Bloods visiting Crips. You got some strange Bloods trying to shoot up a Crip neighborhood. The Bloods telling them ain't us. They calling our set out, but we all here. So they end up shooting the cars up, find out they undercover police and FBI agents. So they've been turning us against each other the whole time, and we didn't even know it. And the motherfuckers behind it look like us. And we didn't even know it. That's my feelings got hurt the worst out of all of this shit that we've been through. And when I found out that the white man ain't white, and the people behind the dirt is dirty Moors, and they lying to the good Moors, but the good Moors is doing their